Hi, I'm Parish President Clint Quintmore. Monday, March 30th marks the 17th day we've been under the stay-at-home order issued by our Governor John Bell Edwards. Ascension Parish government has put in extra hours to ensure we come up with a plan to protect the health and safety of our employees and the public, at the same time providing essential services to the citizens of Ascension Parish. Congress has also been working overtime to develop a recovery plan to stimulate the economy post-pandemic. I'm excited to have Congressman Garret in the Ascension 21 studio. Congressman Graves, welcome back to Ascension Parish.
Thank you. Great to be here.
With Louisiana having a population of around 4.5 million people, it seems that we're far outpacing Italy, which has a population of around 60 million, and the number of positive cases. Give us an update with the medical component of how the federal government is helping local communities respond to this medical concern.
Sure. Well, first, Mr. President, I think it's important to note that 3-4 months ago, this virus really wasn't even on the radar of most governments around the world. And so you have seen a very rapid evolution or response to this, where they've been coming in and from scratch, creating test kits, creating treatments, working on vaccines and cures for this. And so you have seen a very rapid evolution of different response mechanisms to come in and try and help to identify people who have it, to treat people who have it, and to protect those that don't. One of the most recent things that we've done is we've provided about $100 billion. In fact, when you add it all up, it's closer to about $140 billion to our local hospitals, providing billions and billions of dollars to local governments and to state governments to help them prepare for this, to help them respond to this, to help them get the equipment that they need to make sure that their employees are protected but still can perform their jobs, for folks to transition into teleworking and things along those lines.
As far as the economic recovery, I think the number one question here in Ascension Parish for our small businesses, our mom and pop businesses, as well as our unemployed, is with the CARE Act passed last Friday, what can they expect and when?
So the CARE Act was the third law that has been enacted since this coronavirus public health emergency came about. And it does provide a number of lifelines to businesses and to families. And in regard to the families, there's a $1,200 direct payment to adults. It's $500 for children. There's a salary cap of $75,000 for every single person. And then the $1,200 tapers off slowly. It's $112,500 for head of household and $150,000 for a joint family filing jointly, a married couple filing jointly. And then it slowly tapers off. Those checks will be available to anyone who files a 2019 tax return. If you're not required to file a tax return, if you're a retiree, for example, you can file your SSA 1099. If you're a railroad retiree, your railroad board, retirement board 1099. And if you're not required to file taxes, just file that 1040 EZ form, and those funds will become available as soon as the first week in April. So very, very soon they're expecting those dollars to become online. The unemployment insurance, the Louisiana Workforce Commission is working very quickly to try to ramp up capabilities with their 800 number and with their website, both of which I think have been overwhelmed like a lot of other systems, but those dollars should be available in the very near future. And the Small Business Loan Program, another really key lifeline for our small businesses. That program is supposed to come online within about the next week or two. So I think by the middle of April, that program will be available. And again, it's instead of trying to shove everything through the Small Business Administration, doing this through the capabilities of all of our local banks is going to help get those dollars out much faster.
Okay, so if they're expecting checks in April, for those who haven't filed because of the extension, what would the federal government go off? The 2018 tax returns?
No, it's a really good question, and thanks for bringing up the extension. So another sort of lifeline to folks is that the president has extended the tax return deadline. Instead of being April 15th, it's been extended until July 15th. But filing your taxes or filing your Social Security 1099 is going to be the trigger that makes that check become available to you. So you do need to file your taxes. The sooner you file, or in the case of a retiree, the sooner you file your 1099, the sooner that check will become available to you.
Congressman, you know, here in Louisiana, culturally, this stay-at-home order is foreign to us. Even with a hurricane disaster or weather-related event, we're constantly checking on our neighbors. Even in that time, we're very social animals, and we're extending our hospitality out and checking on the elderly and those type of things. So this is uncharted territory for us. So with this stay-at-home order and the possibility of extending it another 2 weeks, can you touch on what we're trying to accomplish, the quote, flattening the curve, and what we're trying to accomplish to keep people healthy?
Sure. And your last point, I mean, it's all about keeping people healthy, right? In an ideal world, what we'd be able to do is we'd have a test, and within 5 or 10 minutes, we could check anybody and say, okay, you are negative, you are positive. And what we'd be able to do is we'd be able to focus on the people that are positive, and we'd be able to quarantine them. But because they're ramping up the availability of tests and innovating just on the fly, there was just a new test approved late last week that will give results in 5 minutes, but of course they've got to produce the quantities needed now. And so since we don't have that technology readily available yet, you have to go to the next best thing, which unfortunately is, instead of focusing solely on those that are sick, is focusing on the general population as well. And it's so counter to our culture in Louisiana, where we love to hug and kiss and shake hands and be close to one another. I mean, you can imagine a crawfish boil where folks are 6 feet apart. It's very difficult to even imagine growing up here. And so this is a major shift for us. But Mr. President, you know, we've got to adapt to this. And there are technologies that are out there that didn't exist years ago, which has been very helpful. Whether it's using your phone and doing FaceTime or Skype or doing Zoom. We actually have done our entire family where we've done these little happy hours at 5 p.m. and just Zoom meeting in our entire family, just to all get there and check in, let the cousins and kids see one another and talk. And we're going to have to adapt to this for a temporary period of time, because like we discussed, we have very vulnerable populations, whether it's our elderly or those that have some type of compromised immune system. If the general population doesn't take some responsibility and do this social distancing thing, then we're going to put those people in jeopardy. And so it doesn't mean you have to forget about the elderly, your friends or relatives. It just means we've got to find different ways of doing it. And whether it's phone calls or emails or text messages or Skype or FaceTime or something else, we just need to adapt for a temporary period of time, because what otherwise happens? The hospital here would be completely overwhelmed, our doctors and nurses, the equipment, the medicines, the cures. And so rather than just continuing our regular social interaction, which would cause this thing to continue to skyrocket and overwhelm our healthcare capabilities, distancing a little bit keeps it a flatter curve till we move into warmer weather, more humid weather, better medicines, better testing, to where we can power through this like I know we can.
Well, Congressman Graves, it's always a pleasure having you here in Ascension Parish. Is there anything you'd like to close with?
Hey, Louisiana, we are probably the most practiced disaster state in the country, meaning we have taken more curveballs here than probably anywhere else. And whether the flood in 2016, Katrina, Rita, Gustav Ike, the oil spill, we have been able to adapt, we've been able to overcome. And one of the greatest things about people here is that we're incredibly resilient, we're very innovative, and just ingenious in terms of figuring out how to adapt to conditions like this. So I understand that this is a heck of a curveball for many of us. But bottom line is, this is another scenario where we can innovate, where we can adapt, where we can overcome, and I know we're going to do it.
Congressman Graves, thank you again for coming. And to our Ascension Parish residents, as always, stay informed and God bless.